Hello guys, this is the Retro Guy. Today I'm working on this Macintosh M0110 keyboard, the original keyboard from the original Macintosh 128. And this one here was again in very bad shape as it normally is. I have already cleaned everything up, and I disassembled pretty much all the keys and washed them, and I checked the switches as well. They looked fine. The circuit board looked fine as well, so no need to actually remove all the switches or anything like that, which is actually pretty painful, because what you need to do is desolder every single one of those keys and then put them back in place, and that's really a lot of work. So I have here one key that has been removed already. So this was defective. Sorry about the focus here, so trying to get a better focus. So when I move to my desk, it's going to be a little bit better. But so this is an ALPS switch, right? And this one here wasn't registering. So this one has already been fixed. I disassembled it and did some tricks, and it's now fully operational again. So this one, I'm not decided yet where is it going to go. So I basically had a problem here with three keys. Number 9, as you can see here, has been removed, right? So this one wasn't registering at all. The enter key or the return key also wasn't registering, and the function key here in the other end, this one is not a big problem because, you know, it's not a very used key anyways, and there is another one here anyways, so it's not really like a big problem. But I wanted to get everything up and running. The key was also like a little bit dodgy, but apparently it's working now, so I avoided disassemble it just for the fun of it. So I'm working now on the last remaining one. So the enter key here, the return key, has already been fixed. This one here also is already fixed. I tested on the multimeter, it seems to be fine, and I'm going to show you now how to fix this, or at least attempt to fix it. If you have a problem similar to this with ALPS switch. So it doesn't have to be with the Mac keyboard, it could be any other keyboard that has similar switches. I think the fix should work for pretty much all of them, right? So I'm going to cut the video now, and I'm going to move to my desk and continue from there. Okay, so this is the switch that is still not registering as it should. A very quick test is basically the idea of the switch is very basic stuff. So if you press it, then those two wires here must basically close the circuit, and that's how it registers, right? So an easy way for you to check that is by using a multimeter. You put that on the continuity test, and you basically see if by touching the poles here, you get a sound, right? So as you can see, I'm pressing it and I get nothing. It's really a shame that I don't have the how do you call that, the alligator plugs here, so I have to do it like this, but still, like, it's working. So what I wanted to see is something like this, right? And I'm not getting that, which means basically when I push the switch, it's not registering anything. So let's disassemble it and see if we can get this guy to work again. So to disassemble it, it's very, very easy. So let me see if I can get some focus here so you guys can actually see it. But so basically what you want to do is go with something pointy, like I have this. So go like this, right? Careful not to break it, right? And just gently start pressing like this until it gets loose. So it's loose now, as you can see, right, on the one side. So, and then do the same on the other. So just slowly until you hear the click, which basically means it's loose. Once it's loose, you just have to carefully remove from the assembly, and that's it. So there is not a lot of moving parts here. So what you need to be careful is there is a spring inside this guy here. So you have to be careful not to lose it. because if you do lose it, like it's going to be very hard for you to get one with the exact tension and the size, right? So make sure you are very careful when disassembling this so that this doesn't pop out and you end up losing it. The other thing is, so in terms of moving parts, the other thing is just the pole here, and that's it really. So there is not, again, a lot going on here. And then here you have, the way this works is, let me see again if I can get a good focus here. But so as you can see here, right, there is a small plate. So you can remove it like I did here. So this is basically like a very thin metal plate. And as you can see, there is a little knob or protuberance, or however it is that you want to call it, just here, see? In here, where I have the pencil on. So this basically is when that pole goes down, right? This gets pressed towards the wall here. So again, let's get the focus on. So as you can see, this is basically like an assembly which has two layers of metal sheets here, and they are apart from one another, like very very small distance, and they have to touch, of course, for the switch to work. And that little protuberance that I showed you before pushes those two together, causing them to touch, and then the switch works. So most of the time on those switches, what's happening is either there's two metal layers that you see here, they are not conductive anymore, or there's a lot of dirt inside or something like that. In that case, it's really hard to recover those because you have to basically remove them. It's not too hard to remove it. The problem is to put them back together. It's very hard because they are so thin and very hard, to get then back in the proper way. So avoid doing that if possible. So what you need to do here, basically spray those with contact cleaner if you can. Just spray it on the assembly here. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I have some deoxit spray here. I'm just going to do it like this, right from the top. Quick spray here should be enough. And then with a cotton swab, just clean up the excess like this. So this should provide for a good contact if the part is not damaged. The good thing about those switches is they are very durable, so the endurance of those guys is really amazing. So you have, for example, those Apple keyboards and IBM keyboards that uses those switches that are just going on forever, basically, without major issues. And those have been used a lot, right? So those are very reliable switches, very unusual for those to fail. As you can see, like in my keyboard, I have only 3 keys that weren't registering at all. The others were just fine. And this is like a keyboard from 1983. So yeah, after you've done it, the other thing that you can do is with that little metal plate to increase the pressure, right, from that protuberance that you have here, this little thing here, see? So this is basically what's going to be touching that 2 layers of metal, right, and pushing them so they can basically connect. So you can bend this a little bit, not too much, just a little bit, to increase the pressure, right? So bend them outwards like this. That should be enough, I think. Maybe a little bit more. Yep. And then reassemble everything and see how that goes. So let's go back here to my desk. Yeah, Ricky was here. That's my son writing on a perfect English, as you can see here, written as here from listening, right? So yeah, maybe I just bent this a little too much, so we'll have to redo that. The problem is if it is too much, then the spring is not going to find its place. So it has to be just the right amount, not too much, and it can't be too little either, because if it is, then there won't be enough pressure to move the plates together. Now it's too little. It's a little bit annoying, you know, to get things done in the proper way, but you will eventually get there, and hopefully it will be working. Yeah, like this should do the trick now. Be careful not to lose those parts. Again, if you lose one of those, like this spring or this metal plate here, that's pretty much it. Like you're not gonna find a replacement part for it. So then the switch is basically unusable. Okay, now I think it's perfect. So let me just show you here, just so you guys see what could be basically consider a right amount of bending. So I'm not sure if it is visible, but yeah, you can see here the little legs, right there, and there is a small pole where it's basically where the spring is going to go. So there has to be enough space there, right? So that was a good one. So let's put now the spring back into place carefully, right? So it doesn't go anywhere. So the spring is back into place, and then just ready for reassembly everything. See that it's very hard to test whether or not this is going to work before you fully reassemble the whole thing, and that's really a shame, but that's basically how it's done. So you have to reassemble everything, and in that not working, you have to disassemble and try it once more. So the reassembly is really easy. You just have to put everything together, it clicks, and then you just make sure that the spring is also in the right place. And now is basically the test. So let's do this one more time. So that's what we want to hear, right? If we hear that, we know that there is continuity when I press the switch, and I would know for sure that this will be enough for the key to register. So it's already pressed. Yeah, I get contact. So up, no contact, down, contact, up, no contact, down, contact. So it works almost every time, right? I have attempted that in another keyboard that I have as well. It did work as well. So same method basically. Sometimes the switch is a little bit different, but in the end the mechanism is very similar. Basically you have those very tiny and thin metal plates that needs to connect, and there is a little knob basically that pushes them together, right? So you just need to bend that metal a little bit further, and that should cause enough pressure to make those plates touch, and then the switch works, right? So this one here is also recovered, and I'm going to now reassemble the whole thing and test with the keyboard reassembled. So bear with me here. I'm just going to cut the video now and then move to the after I reassemble the whole thing, and then we can test that together, okay? Okay, so that's the back of the keyboard. The switches have already been added. So as you can see, the switches are already in place, right? So all I need to do now is solder those 3 switches that you see here. So 1, 2, and the third one is here, right? So 1, 2, and 3. And that's very easy. As you can see, once you have everything in place, the great thing about those switches is that they hold themselves into place, so you don't have to worry about, you know, pre-soldering anything or anything like that. So just very easy soldering job here. That's one. That's that's the second one, that's the enter key. And this is number 9. Just the right amount of solder, like that. Let me just double check to see if yeah, that looks great. That's really good. So yeah, before putting back the keycaps here, let's actually test it, right? So instead of reassembling everything, let's just put the computer here. Let's give it a shot and see how that goes. So bear with me. Okay, so it's connected, and let's plug it in. So this is a Mac 512 that I'm using for the testing here. So let me turn off the light here so it's easier for us to see. And let's change the angle here so you guys can hopefully see the whole thing. So okay, so let me just adjust the camera here. So maybe putting the camera actually on the back side here might be a better choice, like this. There we go. Okay, a little bit less so you can see the keyboard. There we go. Okay, so let's see if that works. Let's power it on. Let's wait for the, yeah, that's it. So let's put a system disk. Don't remember if this one is a system disk or not. System disk in. Let's wait for the boot process. Okay, has booted. So let's give it a shot. So let's open an utility here. Oh yeah, I forgot to connect the mouse. And let's open the keycaps utility. So that's the easier way for us to test everything and make sure that it's working. So let me just do it from this distance. I know lightning is not so great, but let me just press those keys and see if they register. Yeah, 9 still doesn't give me anything. The enter key on the other side is registering just fine, and so does the command key here. So unfortunately the 9, okay, 9 is back, it's working now. Yeah, that looks great. Yeah, it's actually working just fine. So let me just expand this a little bit here. So hopefully this will be a little bit better for you guys to see, but yeah. So 9 key registering just fine now. The enter key also registering just fine, and the option key here, it's also working as it should. the Q, as I mentioned before, it's a little bit dodgy, but it is working, as you can see. So maybe I should do some work here, since I have this already open. You know, it's just as easy as just desoldering that key and making it, or not, because it does work. You see, like it's really not that bad. Yeah, it is good, you see. It's working just every time. So yeah, I'm not gonna do this now. I'd rather not, you know, like do unnecessary work with those. Yeah, it's working just fine. So the keyboard is fully operational now. So I consider this a success. Hopefully this will help someone in the future. One thing that I also would like to suggest is, as you guys can see, this is the UK version of this keyboard, which is not very easy to come across. The most normal versions of this normally is the US keyboard. Why am I saying this? Because if you get a keyboard like that and you download the operating system and you install it on a floppy, right? Normally the image that you get is a US image. There is no UK image for it. So what you need to do if you get something like this and you got this keyboard is you have to download a localizer program and then run it so that it actually installs the necessary files for the UK version of the keyboard to work properly. Otherwise, it is going to look very odd because the key arrangements are actually very different. And basically you get in the last row here, one key behind. So every time, for example, if you press X, you get a Z. If you press C, you get an X. If you press V, you get a C. So you have to make sure you get this localizer installed and it updates the system disk. Otherwise, you get this anomaly, which is a software problem, is not really hardware related, right? So it took me a while to figure this out. In the beginning, I thought it was like a trace that was shorted or something like that on the keyboard. I really ran all sorts of hardware-based tests, like using the multimeter, going through all traces. It took me a long time before I realized it could be related to a different keyboard layout. So be aware of that. Okay, don't do like me, like spending a lot of time in something that doesn't really need correction. That's it, guys. So very happy with that. I finally got my Mac 512. Basically, the whole kit now is great and working. So the original keyboard here, the mouse has already been cleaned and washed, and it's good as new. And this central element here, it's also perfect. This guy needed a lot of recapping. So for example, the CRT wasn't powering up at all. So a lot of recap has been done for this to be in this shape here. So the image now looks great. And I have also the external floppy that you can see just on the side there, right? Just down there here. So everything that I need for my collection is just there now. And the external floppy is working just fine as well. So yeah, this is a beautiful machine, historical, and it really deserved all this care in my opinion. So very happy that it came out like this, right? That's it, guys. So that's what I wanted to show you. Cheers.